That NYC blue blood didn't like me. He even told everyone he would never marry me. In public, I cried my eyes out. In private, I hired a hot-as-hell college guy with a killer body. The college guy was gorgeous, considerate, and incredible in bed. I was a big fan. But as the wedding date with the blue blood got closer, I had to break up with him, no matter how much it hurt. My reason? He was terrible in bed. Then I blocked him on every platform and completely vanished from his life. Later, on the day I was supposed to formally meet my fiancé for the first time, there he was, my gorgeous college guy, sitting right in the chair reserved for the NYC blue blood. He leaned in close to my panicking self and said with a smirk, "Someone said I was bad in bed? Well, my dear fiancé, looks like you'll have to help me practice. My parents have been on a real winning streak lately. Not only did they move our family to New York City, they also found me a fiancé, one of the city's top blue bloods. My mom said he was handsome. My dad said he was rich. Good looks and money. Sounded like a perfect match for me. I agreed to the marriage without a second thought. Who would have guessed the blue blood himself wouldn't agree? In fact, he basically dragged my name through the mud. When he was out with his friends, someone brought up his fiancé, me. According to the live report from my girls who were there, the guy just scoffed. Then he arrogantly declared, "I don't even care what she looks like or what her name is. Why would I ever marry her?" When my sweet, kind friends relayed the story, they mimicked his dismissive tone perfectly. It was so annoying I could feel my blood pressure rising. In front of my friends, I let my eyes well up with tears and stayed silent, sniffling pathetically. So, what am I supposed to do? My friends are the loyal type. They all rushed to comfort me. It's okay, it's okay. Let him run his mouth. As long as your families don't back down, he'll have to marry you unless he wants to end up homeless. The one friend who had always been jealous of my engagement to the blue blood even forgot her grudge and offered an idea. A top-tier guy like him has girls flocking around him constantly. He's just talking big, he probably doesn't care who he marries. Ignore him. If you're really that upset, just go find a cute, clean college guy to sponsor. That's exactly what I was waiting to hear. My heart leaped. I paused my fake crying and looked up with misty eyes. I can't do that. We're about to get engaged. It would be wrong. My friend leaned over and texted me an address. She patted my chest gently. So it's okay for him to play around but not you? What's wrong about it? Besides, you're not officially engaged yet. What's the harm in having a little fun? On the surface, I nodded shyly. Secretly, I screenshotted and saved the message. My friend was right. He didn't want to marry me anyway. What's wrong with having a little fun before the engagement? That night, I rushed over to the lounge my friend had sent me. I had just sat down in a booth when I saw him, a ridiculously handsome guy with broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and long legs walking toward me. With his chiseled, stoic face, he gave off major Ice Prince vibes. He didn't look like a male model. He looked more like a well-bred heir from a wealthy family. But the second he opened his mouth, the model for hire vibe hit me like a truck. He scowled and held up one finger. "This much for one night," he said. "You in?" A face that beautiful, a body that hot even through his clothes. And he was only $1,000 a night. I blinked, my eyes lighting up brighter than a Vegas spotlight. I'm in. And book him for the whole month. My decisiveness and no haggle attitude seemed to stun the guy. He froze for a second, then glanced back over his shoulder. Over the smooth lounge music, I could vaguely hear a group of guys laughing. But that didn't matter. What mattered was that I was about to land a world-class hottie. I was grinning from ear to ear. I reached out to lead my handsome prize away. But he wouldn't budge. The guy just stood there. His perfect brows were furrowed, and he looked totally unwilling. Was my offer too low? Was he having second thoughts and wanted to raise the price? I got it. I held up my hand and made a figure 8 with my fingers. 1,000 a night, I said, feeling the sting. I'll pay for the daytime, too. So, 2,000 a day, which is 60,000 a month. I'll even round it up for you. How does 80,000 sound? The handsome guy didn't say a word. His glare just got colder. He still didn't seem satisfied. I was about to grit my teeth and go higher when a few stylishly dressed young men popped up from the booth behind him. They seemed to be his colleagues. Not as handsome as my guy, but they seemed nice enough. They smiled and started trying to persuade him for me. Come on, Ethan, just go with her. Your parents are gonna sell you off to someone anyway. Better this cute girl than some stranger. Besides, she's willing to pay you. TSK, TSK. What's not to like? Yeah, for real. And you're broke right now. If you don't take the offer, you won't even be able to pay your tuition. Why are we wasting our breath on him? A dare's a dare. Ethan, are you in or out? I didn't get that last part. But based on their conversation, I pieced together his backstory. He came from a poor family. Not only could he not afford tuition, his parents were also plotting to sell him off for money. Of course, he wasn't having it. But since he was broke, he was forced into this line of work. My heart ached for this poor, handsome guy. While he was distracted, I reached out and stroked his flawless cheek. I puffed out my chest and promised, come with me. I'm not crazy rich, but I'll make sure you can stay in school and always have food on the table. I used to scoff at those trashy novel tropes where the main character always wants to save someone from a life of hardship. But looking at Ethan's beautiful face right in front of me, I had to admit, my past self was a little pretentious. I felt so righteous. I looked up, ready to be met with Ethan's grateful gaze. But there was nothing. His eyes were cold, almost like he was hiding a murderous intent. I shivered for some reason and hid the hand that had touched his face behind my back. His colleagues didn't seem to find it strange. They just laughed. Don't mind him, gorgeous. He's just shy. It's always like this for first-timers, especially when they're getting picked up by a pretty girl like you. Yeah, don't worry about it. We'll go talk some sense into him. With that, they dragged the reluctant Ethan aside to whisper to him. I didn't care. My fear had completely vanished. My mind was completely filled with one thought: this was his first time as a boy toy. A clean, world-class hottie. Oh my God. I was originally just planning to look at his face and maybe touch his abs. But he's clean. That meant I could do so much more. My eyes lit up as I looked at Ethan, who had just finished talking with his friends. I bravely grabbed his hand and whispered to him, since it's your first time, I'll give you 15,000 a month. Ethan was still scowling. But after his friend's persuasion and my price increase, his attitude softened considerably. He glanced down at our joined hands. Then he looked up at my face. After a moment, he let out a short, sharp laugh. He mumbled something I couldn't quite hear. Getting a random fiancé was bad enough, and now I'm stuck on a dare with some clueless idiot. Just my luck. I instinctively asked, what did you say? Ethan shook his head. Looking resigned, he let me pull him toward the exit. He leaned down, his voice a low, lazy drawl in my ear. So, my dear sponsor, where will you be keeping this little boy toy of yours? His voice was clear with a hint of rasp. It sent a shiver down my spine. Handsome, great body, and an amazing voice. I had seriously hit the jackpot. I set Ethan up in a 2-bedroom downtown. In the dimly lit entryway, I slowly slipped into my house slippers. My mind was a fireworks show of pure joy. Ethan's face was perfect. His body looked incredible. Once he gets a checkup at the doctor, and everything's clear, it's go time. The more I thought about it, the happier I got. I didn't even notice Ethan's face getting closer and closer to mine. By the time I realized what was happening, his warm breath was already on my nose. His gorgeous face, magnified right in front of me, made me stop breathing. I held my breath without thinking. Ethan let out a soft laugh. His long, elegant fingers tilted my chin up. The pad of his thumb brushed against my lips. Maybe he thought it was fun, because he gently rubbed it. In that instant, it felt like an electric shock went through me. I was so hot I felt like I was about to explode. A blush rushed to my cheeks. I couldn't even speak properly. What are you doing? Let me go. Ethan paused for a second, then straightened up as I'd asked. I looked down, flustered. The air felt strangely hot and dry. I licked my dry lips. The next second, my lips were suddenly warm. Ethan had leaned down and was kissing me. His hand cradled the back of my head, forcing me to tilt my face up to meet his gaze. Our lips pressed together. A warm friction, a spark. The air around us ignited. Before long, I was completely lost in his kiss. It wasn't until his cool hands started traveling upward that I was jolted back to my senses. Wait, he hasn't had his checkup yet. I used every ounce of self-control I had to push him away. No, I don't want to enjoy you just yet. Ethan's eyes slowly cleared. He looked up, a hint of annoyance still lingering in them. My words made his handsome face cloud over. Enjoy me? What are you talking about? Ethan's cold expression was surprisingly intimidating. My voice got smaller. You're my boy toy. You have to listen to me. We can only do it when I say so. Ethan scoffed in disbelief. That night, he wouldn't let me watch him shower. He slept with his back to me. And he wouldn't let me touch his abs. I looked at his tightly covered body and had to laugh. The tail was wagging the dog here. He was really pushing his luck. Given Ethan's attitude, I decided to hold off on paying him. He'd get his money after I got what I paid for. The next morning, I transferred Ethan $200 and told him to go get a health screening. He stared at me coldly, gritting his teeth. You think I have some kind of disease? Well, it's better to be safe than sorry. And don't worry, I'll get one too. I'll even show you my results. Ethan shot me a death glare and stormed out. Until the results came back, all I could do was look. At first, Ethan wasn't used to it and would just glare at me. But after half a day, he got used to it. He could tell how much I wanted him and started to sadistically tease me. Like, he'd suddenly grab my chin and kiss me until I was breathless, then leisurely stroll into the bathroom to hide from me. Once, twice, 3 times. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Just as I was about to lose my mind from frustration, the test results finally came in. I looked at his report with satisfaction. As a grin spread across my face, I started plotting how I was going to devour him tonight. As a proper sponsor, it's only natural to buy your boy toy a new wardrobe. I had 2 sheer outfits in my left hand and 3 gold body chains for men in my right. I was rushing to the sales counter, trying to buy them before Ethan could react. But he still managed to cut me off halfway there. He looked at me suspiciously. What are you buying those for? I'm warning you, I am not wearing that. I swear, I wasn't buying these risque outfits for my own selfish reasons. It was because Ethan glanced at them first that I decided to get them. I walked around him, feeling completely justified. Don't be difficult. I saw you looking at them just now. I know you like them. If you didn't, why would you be staring? The sales associate was on the ball, immediately swiping my card and bagging the items. As for Ethan's speechless, stone-cold expression. Well, I just mentally docked his pay. Reason, giving his sponsor attitude in public. You need energy to perform. To ensure the best experience tonight, I took Ethan out for a candlelight dinner. After a satisfying meal, I happily took his hand, ready to head back for the main event. But who should we run into in the hallway? 2 very familiar figures, my own mom and dad. Whoosh. I yanked Ethan around a corner and pressed us against the wall. My parents had gone through so much trouble to find me a handsome, rich fiancé. If they found out I was keeping a boy toy on the side, it would make me look like such an ungrateful daughter. Hiding was definitely the better option. Ethan had no idea what was going on. He probably thought I was having another one of my weird moments and tried to leave. I grabbed him, whispering urgently, "Hey, hey, hey, don't go. Wait. Weren't you in a hurry just now? Now you want to." The hallway was quiet, with few people walking around. The slightest noise would attract attention. I peeked out and saw my parents looking in our direction. My heart jumped, and I clamped my hand over his mouth. "Shh. Quiet down." Ethan had zero respect for me, his sponsor. He pulled my hand away and frowned. "Who are you hiding from?" Luckily, he'd lowered his voice. I let out a long sigh of relief. "And no one. Let's just wait a minute before we go out." But I hadn't even finished my second sigh of relief. Ethan suddenly stepped out from the corner and looked toward my parents. My heart sank. It's over, I thought. The next second, whoosh, Ethan was back around the corner. As I stood there stunned, he awkwardly ran a hand through his hair. His voice was even quieter than mine. "You're right. Let's wait a bit before we go." I suspected he was hiding from someone, too. Mainly because our actions and expressions were practically identical. I poked his chest. "Who are you hiding from?" "My parents." "Oh, the couple that was trying to sell him off. Are you afraid your parents are going to drag you home and sell you?" Ethan frowned and nodded, his tone dripping with disgust. "Yeah. My parents want to sell me to some woman who's ugly and not all there in the head. Such a handsome guy with such a tragic backstory." I patted his chest sympathetically, feeling a surge of compassion. "Then you can stay with me from now on. 15,000 a month. I'll take care of you." Ethan wasn't moved. Instead, he asked, "What about you? What are you hiding from?" Don't want to talk about it?" I couldn't exactly tell him my parents had set me up with a fiancé and I was hiding so they wouldn't discover my boy toy, could I? How embarrassing would that be for me as a sponsor? My mind raced, and I came up with a lie on the spot. "I'm hiding from a previous boy toy. He's been clinging to me relentlessly. I mean, who can blame him? I'm rich, generous, and gorgeous. It's only natural he can't let go." The moment the words left my mouth, Ethan's face turned to stone. He didn't say another word to me all the way back to his gilded cage. I had my ways of making him talk. The sound of the shower was running, steam filling the bathroom. I brazenly opened the door. Sure enough, the shameless Ethan immediately broke his silence. "Chloe, are you trying to die?" Looking at the view, Ethan's broad shoulders, narrow waist, and tight butt, I smiled until my eyes crinkled. I want to die with my eyes wide, my heart racing, and my mind a flash of white light. "Can you make that happen, baby?" An innocent, poor college student like Ethan had never encountered a degenerate like me. He was silent for a long moment. The back of his ears turned completely red. Pure college guys are so fun to tease. I was so pleased I let out a whistle and grinned mischievously. Okay, I'll stop teasing you for now. We've got all night to." Before I could finish, Ethan whipped around. It wasn't just the back of his ears that were red, his entire front was flushed. From top to bottom. I instinctively covered my eyes. But the magnificent sight still shocked me. "Help. Help me." "Oh, sweet Lord, I was just talking trash. I didn't actually want to die like that." Ethan pulled my hands away from my face. His eyes were dark as he looked at me, his voice raspy like a demon's. "Baby, I can make that happen." That night, Ethan not only wore the chains, but he wore other things too. He wouldn't listen even when I told him no. He insisted on trying on every single piece for me. And with every piece, My eyes went wide, my heart raced, and my mind flashed white. By the time the storm passed, I was so exhausted I was about to fall asleep. So in the morning, when the phone started ringing, I was so annoyed I just grabbed it and shoved it at Ethan. He, on the other hand, seemed well rested. He glanced at the screen, answered, and immediately said, "Mom." The person on the other end paused for a second. The next moment, a torrent of words I couldn't understand poured out of the phone. Ethan shot upright, his expression suddenly serious. "Yes, I am." "Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Evans, we'll be more careful." Ethan shook me awake. He pried my eyes open, his handsome face filling my vision. His tone was grave. "Chloe, do you have a fiancé? Being half asleep makes you let your guard down." Yeah? What's up?" Ethan was silent. After a moment, he said with a strange expression, "You have a fiancé and you're out here keeping a boy toy?" That snapped me wide awake. I started playing dumb. "What fiancé? I don't have one." "Where did you hear that?" "Don't pretend. You handed me the wrong phone just now." "That was your parents calling." Me, at this point, there was no use denying it. Time to tell a few little white lies. I draped my hand over Ethan's V-line and started sweet-talking him. "Baby, don't worry. You're not the other man. We're not engaged, it's just a verbal agreement between our parents. Technically, he's just my fiancé-to-be. Besides, he's ugly, he keeps other women on the side, and he's super arrogant. I don't like him at all. I'm going to call off this wedding sooner or later. And if I can't, I'll run away for you. You have to believe me, baby." My words didn't seem to reassure Ethan at all. He frowned, capturing my restless fingers. He zeroed in on an unimportant detail. "Your fiancé is ugly, keeps other women, and is arrogant." "Who told you that?" "Of course I made it up. How else was I supposed to calm him down?" I smiled and kissed him, trying to make my story more believable. I saw it with my own eyes, of course. Ethan didn't look happy at all. In fact, he looked like he was about to laugh from anger. "Is that so?" He held me in place, deepening the quick peck into a real kiss. I figured he was new to this and just liked being close. I happily kissed him back. Yes. A perfect way to change the subject. But then, the phone rang again. I didn't want to answer, but it kept ringing relentlessly. Ethan took a deep breath and pulled away. Without looking, he picked up the phone and handed it to me. Great. It was my mom again. She was probably going to ask about Ethan. Before I could even deploy my preemptive sweet-talking tactics, a gentle, unfamiliar female voice came through the phone. "Son, last night your father and I spoke with your future in-laws. We've decided it's time for you two to have a formal meeting. If you get along, we'll finalize things. You seem quite happy with her, so stop all this nonsense about running away from home. Come back, and I'll arrange a time for you all to meet." Oh, it was Ethan's predatory parents, calling him home. I silently handed the phone to Ethan and whispered, "It's your phone." He took it and listened for a moment. He looked down at me, his expression complicated. He nodded as he spoke. "Yeah, it's her. We just met by chance. No, I'm not canceling. Stop rushing me, I'll be back when it's time." After Ethan hung up, I threw my arms around his neck. "Are you really going to go back and let your parents sell you?" Ethan held me by my hips, a smirk playing on his lips. "What else am I supposed to do? Are you going to keep me forever? They say you can't trust pillow talk. So I could say whatever I wanted." "Sure. And what about your fiancé?" "I'll dump him." For some reason, Ethan's mood suddenly soured. He pressed his teeth against my collarbone, biting down gently. The sharp sting made me suck in a breath. "Are you a dog? You don't want to? Fine. He can be the main event, and you can be the side piece." Ethan was clearly furious now. He silenced me with a kiss, his mouth trailing down my body. All in all, it was another morning where I was completely stuffed. When I woke up that evening, I saw a text from my mom. "Sweetheart, it's okay to have fun before the wedding, but remember to use protection." Huh. My mom wasn't against me having a boy toy. I quickly sent back a polite kitten sticker. After that, I was even more open about my arrangement with Ethan. I went home less and less, spending all my time with him. One day we'd go to an amusement park. The next, the aquarium. When we had classes, we'd go to our separate schools. When we were free, we were inseparable. Aside from the $15,000 I transferred him each month, we were like any other young couple. 15 grand was a bargain for a boy toy. He was gorgeous, sweet, and amazing in bed. More importantly, since I started seeing Ethan, I was practically glowing. Like a demon who'd feasted on a saint. My friends even privately asked if I'd gotten cosmetic work done. Ethan understood our relationship perfectly. He seemed terrified that I would leave him. He would bring me gifts every few days. Things like fake Hermes, Chanel, and Louis Vuitton bags, clothes, and shoes. Or beautiful diamond and gemstone necklaces. They were all such good knockoffs you could barely tell they were fake. He must have gone to a lot of trouble to find them. Whenever he handed me a gift and looked at me, begging for praise, I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth. I was afraid of hurting his fragile pride. Oh well, fake is fake. As long as he was putting in the effort for his queen, that was enough. I thought I was being rational and clear-headed. Until one night, Ethan suddenly confessed his feelings for me. He got down on one knee, holding a big, sparkly, fake diamond ring he must have found somewhere. He looked at me with deep affection. "Chloe, I love you. Will you accept my love? Forget about my situation. Just me, as a person. Will you be with me?" The lighting was romantic. The ring was dazzling. It made Ethan's eyes look so incredibly beautiful. Long story short, I acted on impulse that night. I said, "I will." Ethan joyfully swept me up into his arms. He buried his face in my hair, his voice trembling with excitement. "Baby, I'm so happy. You really agreed to be with me." We had a little wine to celebrate that night. Ethan even put on one of the sexy outfits he'd bought himself. He held me, drunk, in his arms, his mouth moving, but I couldn't make out the words. "Baby, I admit I've been hiding something from you. I'm going to tell you everything right now." His red lips opened and closed. I couldn't control myself. I lunged forward. We went at it again and again. As I was finally drifting off, exhausted, Ethan whispered in my ear. "Baby, my parents and your parents were right. We're a match made in heaven. Let's get engaged, okay?" The day after I agreed to be with Ethan, I got a text from my mom right after class. "Are you coming home this weekend? How about you make some time to meet your fiancé's parents?" 3 months ago, before I met Ethan, I would have agreed in a heartbeat. But now. I frowned and tapped on my phone. I typed out, "Mom, I want to call off the engagement." I knew my parents had put a lot of work into this marriage. When they had asked me what I wanted in a fiancé, I said, handsome and from a good family. Now they'd found someone who met my criteria, and I was the one backing out. I hesitated for a long time, my finger hovering over the send button. I sighed. I decided I would go home later and talk to my mom face to face. I walked to the parking lot, ready to drive home. But then I saw someone who had no business being at my university, Ethan. He was walking behind a woman with long, wavy hair, red lipstick, and a stunning figure. The woman got into a Ferrari and said to Ethan, who was standing outside, "Get in if you want the money." No, Ethan would never agree. The next second, my heart plunged into an icy abyss as Ethan opened the door and got in. The red Ferrari peeled out of the parking lot with a roar. The exhaust fumes hung in the air. I stared in the direction the car had gone, my fingers trembling as I texted Ethan. "Where are you right now?" He replied almost instantly. "Baby, I just finished class. I'm almost home. Miss me already?" I stared blankly at the screen, a heavy feeling in my chest. I had agreed to be with him yesterday. The urge to break up with him was hitting me right now. Whatever. It was just a transaction to begin with. Ending it like this was fine. He could find another sponsor. I would go home and get engaged. I blinked, forcing back the tears. I found my mom's chat and deleted the unsent draft. I sent a smiley face and replied, "Okay." As for Ethan, I thought for a moment and sent him a breakup notice. "You're terrible in bed. You're dumped." Then I blocked and deleted him from everything. We were officially over. Ethan's perspective. One night after dinner, my parents suddenly informed me that I had a fiancé to be. The engagement had been arranged by my grandfather before he passed away. They had looked into her. My mom said she was beautiful, had a great personality, and was a good match for me. Who still does arranged marriages in this day and age? Naturally, I refused. I stormed out of the house to protest the whole thing. I was staying in my apartment near campus, going to class, and hanging out when I was free. One day, my deadbeat friends invited me out for drinks at our usual spot. I was bored, so I went. They all knew about my impending fiancé and wasted no time teasing me about it. I got annoyed and suggested we play a game of truth or dare to get back at them. My luck has always been good. I rarely lose at games. So, when they came up with the dare, loser has to pick someone in the bar and ask if they can sponsor them. If the person says no, it's over. If they say yes, you have to go home with them. I didn't object, even though it was a little extreme. Because there was no way I was going to lose. But I did. The bottle pointed at me 3 times in a row. Including the time I spun it myself. My friends started hooting and hollering, telling me to get on with it. I had no choice but to get up. I scanned the room and saw Chloe, curled up in a booth. Small face, big eyes, fair skin. She looked sweet and innocent. A good girl. "You'll do." I walked straight toward Chloe and started my dare. I thought she would refuse me. After all, she looked so timid, with her eyes wide as she glanced around. But Chloe didn't. I could have left at any point. But for some reason, I went home with her. That night, I kissed her. I initiated it. It was unbelievable. I mean, I'd never had the urge to kiss anyone before. I thought I was going crazy. Just as I was losing control, Chloe stopped me. She thought I might have a disease and refused to go any further. I had to laugh. I was more worried that she, a woman who sponsored men, might have something. I wondered how many guys there had been before me. That thought stung a little. Must be my imagination. I was pissed that night. I refused her request to watch me shower. When we went to bed, I made sure I was completely covered up. I wouldn't let her see an inch of me. When I turned off the lights, Chloe looked at me with such a mournful expression. The way she was clearly drooling over me but couldn't do anything about it was hilarious. She insisted on not touching me until the test results came back. So I did everything I could to tempt her. Purely for fun. Watching her practically salivate while trying to hold back was priceless. 3 days later, the results were in. The way Chloe looked at me was like a wolf eyeing its prey. Her eyes were practically glowing green. Ha ha ha, so funny. How could a girl's eyes look so predatory? But she wasn't in a rush. She even took me out for a candlelight dinner. She said I needed to eat up so I'd have energy for later. Listen to that. Is that something a girl says? I kept a straight face, but inside, I was happily chowing down. Everything was going smoothly that day. Until we were about to head back and ran into a little snag. I saw my parents. Chloe saw her ex-boy toy. I was a little bothered by Chloe's ex. But she was with me now. Oh well. Ignorance is bliss. That night, Chloe enjoyed me. She was very satisfied, and so was I. We were at it for a long time. Which led to me accidentally answering Chloe's mom's phone the next morning. She was reminding Chloe to use protection and not get pregnant before the wedding. I wasn't going to say anything. Until Chloe's mom mentioned my name. She knew who I was. And from her, I learned that Chloe was my fiancé. For a split second, I felt an indescribable thrill. So, Chloe and I were meant to be. But then I remembered my current identity, Chloe's boy toy. Huh? Was I cheating on myself with myself? I knew we didn't have any feelings for each other when our parents arranged the marriage. We weren't officially engaged, so it wouldn't have mattered if she'd found 100 other guys. But that didn't stop me from teasing her about her fiancé. And in the end, I was the one who got hurt. She said her fiancé, me, was ugly, kept other women, and was arrogant. She even said she was going to dump that fiancé sooner or later. After meeting her, I'll admit I'd been a bit childish. I was furious that she wanted to dump me. I decided not to reveal my identity. I was going to make her fall in love with me, get engaged to me, and marry me, all of her own free will. After that, we lived together like a normal couple. When two people are destined to be together, love will blossom. When I finally saw the love for me in Chloe's eyes, I proposed. That day, we had a little wine. As she lay comfortably in my arms, I confessed everything. I was afraid she would be angry that I'd hidden it from her. But she just laughed and said we were quite fated. She accepted my proposal. But the next day, as my cousin was driving me home to talk to our parents about the engagement meeting, I got her breakup text. And then she blocked me everywhere. In that moment, my world came crashing down. I thought the engagement would be cancelled, too. But it seemed Chloe had blacked out that night. She didn't know I was her fiancé. We still ended up arranging a meeting as a prospective engaged couple. I'm going to ask her to her face just what was so wrong with my performance. 3 days later was the day I was supposed to meet my fiancé-to-be. I had zero motivation to get dressed up. My mind was stuck on a loop of Ethan getting into that woman's Ferrari. My mom had left my fiancé's file on the table. I couldn't even be bothered to open it. I didn't even care what his last name was. I was in no state to get engaged or start a new relationship. The night before the meeting, I tossed and turned in bed. I would never forgive Ethan for betraying me. But that didn't mean I should drag someone else, and myself, down with me. So, this engagement couldn't happen. Oh well, I just have to apologize to him and his family in person tomorrow. My fiancé didn't like me either. He probably wanted to cancel this ridiculous engagement just as much as I did. Right, what was his name again? The file was on the table. I'll definitely look at it tomorrow. First thing in the morning, my mom dragged me out of bed to get my hair and makeup done and try on dresses. The whole morning was a blur. It wasn't until I was about to go downstairs to meet my fiancé's family, who had already arrived, that I remembered his file was still sitting on my desk. Whatever, it should be fine. They'll probably do introductions anyway. And so, filled with uncertainty, I went to meet my fiancé's family. I was wearing a ball gown with a full skirt, my hair intricately styled and dotted with tiny diamonds. I wore emerald earrings and a matching necklace. I had seen my reflection in the mirror. Elegant and beautiful. A version of me I barely recognized. What a waste. All dressed up for a date with no future. I swished my skirt as I slowly descended the stairs. In the spacious hall, my fiancé's family was already seated, their backs to me. One of them, a young man, had a back that looked just like Ethan's. I was really losing my mind. How could I still be thinking about him at a time like this? I shook my head and quickened my pace, walking up to them. I greeted them politely. "Good morning, sir, ma'am." It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Chloe. The three of them, sitting in a row, looked up at the sound of my voice. The man was distinguished, the woman gentle. Just as I'd expected. The elders of prominent families were always like that. But when my gaze shifted to my fiancé, my body swayed. What the hell? Why was Ethan sitting in my fiancé's seat? I must have been standing there, stunned, for too long. The woman broke the silence with a laugh. Chloe, has it been that long since you've seen Ethan? Does he look like a stranger now? Come, sit next to me. Ethan stood up and guided me to the seat next to him. He smirked at me. We young people have more to talk about. She can sit here. Right, Chloe? My parents were completely oblivious to how stiff I was. They just laughed and said, an engaged couple should sit together. I sat there like a statue through the family introductions, wishing the ground would open up and swallow me. The boy toy I sponsored was actually my fiancé. And I broke up with him because his skills weren't good enough. The whole thing with him getting into the woman's car for money was probably a misunderstanding too. My toes were cringing hard enough to dig a new subway tunnel. Regret doesn't even begin to cover it. If no one were here right now, I'd probably be slapping myself. My expression must have been incredibly pitiful because it made Ethan laugh. He let out a pfft and took my hand. He smiled charmingly at my mother. Mrs. Evans, would it be all right if Chloe and I took a walk in the garden? My mom happily agreed. Everyone else smiled at us encouragingly. The only one who didn't want to move was me. Ethan tugged my hand, but I didn't budge. In front of everyone, he wouldn't dare just pick me up like he used to when we lived together, right? Just as I was feeling a sense of security, Ethan leaned down and whispered in my ear, "You're terrible in bed. You're dumped." Someone said I was bad in bed? Well, my dear fiancé, looks like you'll have to help me practice. I shot to my feet. Feeling like a soldier marching to my doom, I followed Ethan out to the garden. The roses were in full bloom, a riot of passionate color. Ethan cornered me against a wall of flowers. His lips were against my cheek. His hot breath fanned across my face. I didn't dare move. I was completely frozen. But of course, he had to be a sadist. He kept pressing. So, what exactly was so dissatisfying that you had to break up with me? You seemed pretty happy every time. My face went from red to white and back again. The nerve of this guy. Saying something like that out loud. And then he leaned in even closer. His breath tickled my ear. Itchy, hot, unbearable. I tried to hold back, but I couldn't stop myself from pushing him. It didn't work. Instead, he pulled me into his arms. Let go of me. This is my house. I struggled, my voice a whisper. I know. And thank goodness it is. It's the only way to keep you from running away again. Ethan held me tight, acting completely shameless. So, tell me. Why did you really break up with me? Why were you in that bar asking me to sponsor you? And when did you find out I was your fiancé? Why did you hide it from me after you knew? Ethan stroked the top of my head, then cupped my cheek. The bar thing was a dare I lost. It was just a coincidence I ran into you. I found out the truth when your parents and my parents saw us at our candlelight dinner. The next day, I answered your mom's call by mistake, and she mentioned my name. That's how I knew. As for hiding it, you were the one going on and on about calling off the engagement, calling me ugly, and accusing me of having other women. Of course I had to work on building a relationship with you first. Besides, I told you everything the night I proposed. You even said we were fated. And then the very next day, you blocked me and dumped me. I turned my face away so he couldn't kiss me. I mumbled, "It's still your fault." You're right. It's all my fault. Please, give me a chance to make it right. Ethan hugged me even tighter and smiled. But you still have to tell me why you broke up with me. I squirmed out of his arms. I looked away, completely embarrassed. I saw you at my school getting into a Ferrari with a woman with long, wavy hair. I even texted you to ask where you were, and you lied and said you were at home. How could I not misunderstand? Ethan thought for a second, then pulled out his phone and went to his photo album. He showed me a family picture. Was this the woman you saw? That's my cousin. And I said I was at home by mistake. She was giving me a ride to my parents' house that day. And did you also happen to hear her say something about getting in if I wanted the money? I nodded. Ethan continued, my parents had asked her to bring me home. She'd borrowed some money from me for an investment a while back and hadn't paid it back yet. She was using it to tease me. Baby, I'm sorry I made you misunderstand. So it really was a misunderstanding. But it just made me feel incredibly stupid. I wanted to just disappear. If I had just gone along with the meeting and engagement like I was supposed to. If I hadn't sponsored a boy toy, none of this would have happened. Now, it was just so awkward. I kept my head down, refusing to look up. My face was burning. Ethan walked over and gently lifted my chin. He leaned down and kissed me deeply. His breath was hot. My body trembled. Just as I started to kiss him back, Ethan suddenly pulled away. This guy was infuriating. I glared up at him. Ethan smiled. He said, I prefer you like this anyway. You only need to be shy in certain specific situations. My face flushed, and I pinched the firm muscle at his waist. Ethan, you're shameless. Not as shameless as my dear sponsor. 3 years later, Ethan and I got married. We became known as one of the most loving couples in our circle. The friend who gave me the address to the lounge came to see me, looking relieved. It's a good thing I sent you the wrong address back then. If you had really sponsored some college kid, you might not have the happy life you have now. I just smiled. I didn't tell her that Ethan was the college guy I had sponsored. Our love story was a series of happy accidents. If any single thing had been different, we might not be where we are today. But as it is, everything is just right. The sky is blue, the clouds are white. The breeze is gentle, the sun is shining. And at this very moment, Ethan is walking toward me, smiling.